put Natalia over here. Let's go ahead and make her line, color, hash, highlight, layer. Get these ready. And then we're going to go ahead and lay down a couple of the other individuals that are going to be sitting next to her. I usually like to put the highlight layer over the hash layer so that when you're adding white lines, they're not going to be accidentally crossed over by the black ones. I find that line work, when the white is the most foreground color, then it really pops. It makes it pop right off the page. So I prefer usually to put the highlight layer over the black hash layer. There might be a situation where I can show you where it's more helpful, but I don't know if I want to show it quite yet. If we come upon it, I'll show you, but I don't think we need to create that. Let's go ahead and go to new group from layers. We'll call this Natalia. And we're going to have her seated next to, I guess it's R-I-N-A-T. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly. We're going to have him seated. Oops. Let's try to get him seated in a way that makes sense. We may have to move her maybe this way just a little bit. I'll have to sort of, we'll delete, we don't have to do this, but since Don Jr., he's within the frame, we're going to have Natalia also within the frame. Sometimes pictures look good coming off the frame, but for this I think we're going to keep at least their bodies within the frame. I just think it might actually make the picture look a little bigger that way, just kind of, well, I mean, it can kind of go either way. I guess if we made Don Jr. really big, like, you know, if we did that, then we could have him coming off the page. Let's take a look. If we took him and had it really, really big, you know, like if we were to sort of alter it so that he were sort of big, we could do that, you know what I mean? We'd have to, I mean, it could be done. I don't know if I want to do it, because I don't know if it's worth the time that we did to do that. I don't want to do that because it assumes that he was sort of like the lead in this, and I don't know enough about what happened, so I'm just not. I'm gonna have everyone here at the table sort of on a even field here, just because I don't know everything that happened. So I'm just right now just gonna paint everyone. I don't even know what kind of captions or anything I'm gonna do yet. Let's do line. Let's do color. And let's do, I'm probably spelling highlight wrong. No, looks better this way. Do some hash marks. And I'm just going to go ahead and advance, and I'm going to rasterize the layers so I don't have to do it during the pass. That's the cool thing about that. Here, I'll show you with the next one. We have this guy. who apparently sued somebody on MSNBC, one of the guests. He sued somebody for libel. So I'm just like, I don't want to piss him off. Anyway, let's go ahead and move. So what I did there is I deleted the background of this Renee guy. I don't know his name. Renate. 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 I mean, I don't know. So there's this guy. So remember before when we created paths, we just sort of rasterized them then. You don't have to do it during the clipping paths portion. You can actually just clip, you can rasterize it whenever you want. So we're going to go ahead and rasterize it so that we can edit it as we need. And I've already taken this background out, so just popping it there. And then we also have a translator that we're gonna just use sort of the outline for. I've just sort of made up an imaginary person outline. It's not actually the individual. Oh, I don't even need to go there. It's in library, so we go to this. Actually, what we could do is put him here in front of this guy with the weird name that I can't pronounce. Could put it here. I mean, I don't know where they were sitting, right? So this is just sort of creative guesswork. You know, I don't know if you would call this changing history. I'm actually just trying to portray history in a you know, a scene here that actually happened. But I don't know where they were sitting because it was, you know, it's a private sort of, it was a private meeting. So let's move him further back. We'll have him sort of back here where Rob is. And then we're going to take funny name guy. We'll put him here. And then our translator, we're going to actually change the silhouette a little bit. This is just a placeholder. Maybe we'll have him even be taller. There's probably better pictures of Renate. There's probably better pictures of him, but you know, if I had more time with this, if I had a few more hours to just spend on him, I could make him look like he's facing this way and it would be more accurate. But I'm going to try to keep this entire cartoon done within 10 hours. And in order to do that, I kind of need to just leave his face that way for now. So we'll just have him looking down. It'll kind of have the irony because people who have seen that picture, he's sort of known for just a couple pictures these days because he's hardly seen. And so the images that are on Google Images, this is a pretty common one of him. So I figured, hey, if it's on Google Images and it's being repeated everywhere and it's one of the only ones that are available, you know, I'll play with that one. But I'll change it up. You know, I don't want to, you know, do something completely unfamiliar. So I'm going to plug in my tablet again, see if I can get my pen. Let's try this one. There it goes. Alright, so I've switched my drawing pen. I'm using a little bit of a heavier one so that it will just work with me. So before we start doing line work on all these people, I'm going to just erase them off the table. And we're going to be cartoonizing the table as well. This is just a placeholder until we can get that finished. I figured I would do the people first and then objects. Alright. So, I think I might start with the translator before I do her. So I'm just gonna hide the layer that she's on. And I'm just gonna create an outline for the translator, and then we'll have him done, or her. I guess it's a him. I don't really. I do have an image that shows what the name is, but I don't really know what this person looks like, so I'm just gonna wing it. I'm gonna create a new layer. We're gonna add. We're gonna call this overlay, because we don't really need new line and color and hash and highlight, because this person is sort of private because they're just the translator, you know. So we're gonna take these two and we're gonna group them as a group. We're gonna call this translator, and I'm typing one-handed because I have a pen in one hand, so I'm typing with my left. Alright, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of new sort of hair and dimension. So we're gonna imagine that they kind of have almost straight hair, but maybe something like that. So it looks like it's got a bunch of short hairs. Oh, sort of a wave in the front. And what this does, especially when you're dealing with like someone you don't know what they look like, it gives the impression their hair is both straight and curly at the same time, since we don't know. Like, we don't know if the hair is straight or curly, and this kind of leaves it to the imagination. Now, as far as the forehead, we're not going to know what this looks like. So I'm going to take off that faded airbrush, and I'm actually going to go ahead and merge this layer with the one before it, the overlay that I just did. I'm going to do Control E. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I'm going to be erasing as a form of painting. So I'm going to press the letter E, and I'm going to erase part of this forehead and create a nose. See, I'm just sort of slicing at it a little bit. And I'm just sort of etching out where the lips would be. It's kind of like doing sculpture. You know, when you're working with sculpture and you're doing sort of like a statue, for instance, you kind of want to chisel at the stone. This is sort of the same way. You kind of want to just chisel with an eraser brush in Photoshop to create a silhouette of a person like this. A little room for the chin. Now I'm going to the brush tool. I'm just going to add a little bit more nose. that might look nothing like the person. It's just, you know, when you don't know who you're drawing, you can kind of play with it. So I'm making a straight line right here off of the neck so you can kind of get the impression that they're wearing a suit. I'm trying to shave off some of the shoulder because first of all it's going to be covered up anyway. I just want to see how it's going to come off. It's going to be covering it anyway. So this is why I like to erase. This is why I like to erase. So let's erase what we're not going to be using here. And that way we don't have to deal with unnecessary painting. This is why I had done it earlier on all those other individuals and why I'm doing it again. And I'll just, you know, those few little things like not needing to really do that area. It saves time. So I just reduced her opacity, and now I'm gonna make it back again. So it looks like I can extend the translator. So this body here comes, so his body, not it's, I know it's a man. So his body comes down. And some of that could be very well covered up by Natalia's clothes later. This is sort of a placeholder so we can see that black outline, that fill at least, that coming all the way down the silhouette. You know, we can always bring the table forward if we need to actually cover all that. That's another little secret. Let's just go here and we'll do that. We'll take the conference table that's down here and we'll pick it up and we're gonna move it all the way. Let's see how far out. We'll go to, we don't want it covering them, so we're gonna have it going all the way to Paul Manafort. It'll, let's see if we can get that right. Let's put Don Jr. Yeah, he's in the right spot. He's under Jerry. We got Paul down here. Let's see. So we're gonna move this conference after Paul. No, after Rob. Oh, I put it in Rob. So what I did, I was like, why is it not doing it? All right, so if you mess up like that, you have two choices. You can do Control Z, or you can go to History and go to your last part, or you can just pick it up and move it down. You kind of have three options there. All right. So now the reason I did that is so that in the future I don't have to worry about different colors overlaying unnaturally over the table. Now the table is going to be, well, I don't really have it that high up, do I? I mean, it's kind of, hold on a minute. Yeah, I should probably move it up probably a little bit higher and then move. I have options, I'm thinking. I think I'll just leave it like this for now because I'm not sure how to verbally describe what I'm thinking. Alright, so let's work on her. Let's start with a line. Wait a second. These other ones I made highlight. We could put that with this Renata guy. I'll move that behind the translator in just a minute. I wanted to make a new group first. And the reason I do that as a group, not only does it allow me to move them dynamically, but it saves this, this saves the number of layers that you have to visually look at. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like looking through 30 layers for something when I can shorten it to like 10 layers. And even that's a lot, but I'd rather have it sorted by layers than not, you know what I mean? So hash goes second after highlight, line goes after hash, and then color, and then the original. I like to sometimes write the word orig or original at the end of the original so I can tell it apart. So I just double click to rename, and I wrote her last name in here so I remember it. So long last name. Alright, so to get started, I want to lower her opacity to somewhere between 25 and 50. And we're going to hide the translator so that all we see is her. We're going to also hide this sky. We just want to see her. We're going to click on line and we're going to go ahead and create her outline. But first I'm going to get resituated. Alright. I'm going to go to brushes, cartoon. So I don't really like that because it's kind of like over here, it's kind of messed up. But it's sometimes hard to get a line that long really well, so I'm just going to come in and delete the area I don't like without having to redo the whole line, and come in here and fill it in. Now let's turn on the faded airbrush. So I'm going sort of over this, the nub of her nose, and creating sort of that triangle kind of look right here with a tail. And sideways it kind of looks like a Y and an X together, like a Y maybe. So look how I'd go this way. This would be the bottom of the Y for the nose. I'm not only darkening the nostril, I'm adding shade with the nostril when it comes down here. I might erase a little bit of the nostril so it's smaller, just a little bit. But it made it really pixelated, so I may as well just go back, just shadow it, add a little bit of blend. I just pressed like this little smudge tool. Now I pressed B, I'm back to brush. I'm not sure I like that nostril at all, so I'm going to go to my history brush and I'm going to go far back, that, like that. And then come here. I pressed M for smudge. It'll look better when I have it colored. This is just the line work. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be adding shade and all that good stuff when we start adding color. So I didn't continue adding shadow where there should be because I want to do that with a bigger brush that's soft instead of this small hard brush. That's kind of too much. We're gonna have it do that. The inside corner of this eye, we kind of made it vertical. We kind of just put a line going straight up rather than a point. Instead of making that inner circle pointy, we've made it like a wall. I'm making this smaller now. We're going to go to 2 pixels because we're dealing with the eye. It's okay to get smaller. I'm adding little vertical lines here. This gives the eyeball the impression that it's sitting behind the skin. I'm darkening this outside and adding a little shadow here above the eye. This kind of just sets the eyes further back. I don't even know if her eye actually looks this way. I'm at this point just having fun with it, and we'll see how it looks. We'll compare before and after and see if there's anything we need to adjust later. So here you can see with the eyebrow, I've started with a dark black and I have lightly applied pressure going this way. And that's a very different way of doing eyebrows than we did with the gentleman on the other side of the table. So we're having hers be very sort of soft and fading from dark to light. And we're going to do that on this side. We're just going up and down, smooth strokes. I'm not even lifting the pen off of the tablet and just sort of going up and down. We can't even see her real eyebrow here. We're making it up. We're actually designing on top of what isn't there. If we wanted to see her eyebrow, all we have to do is increase the opacity of the original image, and then we would see it. Oops, I'm gonna make a small eraser. I'm gonna reduce the opacity too, because I'm gonna make this soft. Kind of see if I can try to match it. this side to this side. If I'm not able to, worst case scenario, then I can just copy and paste the eyebrow. I might even do that. Should I show you how to do that? I could leave it like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and delete it, and I'm gonna use the other eyebrow. Because I like the other one better. So what I did is delete, and the tool I'm using is called the polygonal lasso tool. It allows you to just click the area that you want to select. I'm going to go up to this tool, and I'm going to Alt Shift hold down and move, and it creates a copy, and I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. I'm going to place the right hand side of the eyebrow where I want it, and then I'm going to go to the corner here. I'm going to tilt it so I see the angle. It's going to go this way. Then we place it in the spot we want. I'm going to double click and let go. I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect. And then I'm going to press the letter E. And keep in mind, some cartoons, you know, you can go ahead and just leave an eyebrow like that and it looks fine. You know, eyebrows can come off the page in a cartoon. But we're going to take our eraser and we're going to erase it. So now her eyebrows are completely the same. Don't you wish it was that simple? When we're in front of the mirror doing our eyebrows, you just copy and paste your eyebrow. Anyway, that's one way to do it. You saw that I was still able to do a fairly decent eyebrow, but you know, copy and pasting it, it's gonna look even more correct, I guess. Starting to get there. Alright, I can't really see her chin, so I'm going to increase her opacity just a little bit so I can see. Oh, it's too small. I need to make this cartoon line a little heavier. So we're going to go from 2 pixels to 3. Because remember, doing her eyes, it was on a 2, but we need to go back to a 3. So I'm taking the eraser tool, defining that chin. And we're going to do the same again here. I'm just going to add a little more black. And then we'll erase that part. Yeah, I like that. And I'll darken that. Notice how this is soft and then it gets hard again. I'm probably going to leave it like that. I don't always do that, but with her face, we can really do that and it'll look fine. And the reason I say that is because her jawline continues from the left to the right without really stopping. It looks very contoured and you can really see that. And so when someone is sort of blessed with that sort of full contour, you can draw them almost with a continuous line and it look natural. I'm going to leave some of this open and I'm not going to completely connect it because we're going to have hair coming out from that and we'll probably end up covering some of this too. So just want to make sure we get sort of the lineage of that correct. You can see she's starting to take shape here. When it gets real pixelated like that, that usually means zoom in. When you zoom in, you can draw lines without being pixelated too much. So when I did that, I had to hold down my pen for a second and hold it in place without moving it to get it dark enough to come down without a line coming down. If I had not done that, here's what it would have looked like. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to be a dark line right there instead of a light line. But I can do that. See how soft that is? That's like a little hash mark. So what I'm going to do is do that same hash mark, but I'm going to do it under the hash layer. Let's kind of do something like that. Let's come back to the line layer and we're going to draw in a suit. When drawing a suit, you kind of want the suit to come off straight off the neck, like they intersect. So this neck has sort of this slanted intersection with the suit, and we want to continue that. Now I need to look at the translator for a minute. I'm going to reduce the opacity of the translator so I can see how far to draw the line of her jacket, and it's going to stop around the table area. We're going to try to, let's see if we can get it to look natural. So what I was doing there was just pressing Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and then once I went too far back, I pressed Control Shift Z. So pressing Control Z goes back, and then pressing Control Shift Z reverts it back to where you are. So you can go backwards and forwards in time. So I don't want to draw too much of her. I only want to draw as much of her as there is of him. So one thing when I say him, I mean Don Jr. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the top where there's a, let me go back. This little tool here, this top one, allows me to move the ruler. So we're going to move the ruler by just dragging and dropping. And I'm going to go about, this is far. This is the bottom of what I consider the bottommost part of where the people are. So I can go below that line, but only by a little bit. So I'm going to draw another line. So here's the other line. So this is sort of the ballpark that I want to be in when I draw her, if that makes sense. And the thing is, we don't want our paint to snap to the guide. Otherwise, it's going to be terribly pixelated. So we're going to uncheck snap guides. Now we should be able to just paint over that area and it shouldn't be any issue at all. So let's continue with the line here. I'm pressing B for boy to do brush. We'll go down about this far. I'm going over the line just so it kind of has a nice dark continual width. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to erase the parts that are a little too wobbly for my taste. But I still like a little wobble because it's, you know, cartooning. It's not supposed to look completely perfect. I'm going to do this. And we can see sort of like her arm is here. There's sort of a crease here showing the hem of her shirt, of sort of where her arm's going to be of the blazer. Nice. Ah, looking good. I like having a 3 usually when I'm racing, and I was using a 2, and I don't like that so much. That's why I changed it to a 3. So this little area here, I'm going to add a variant line width. You can see I'm adding quite a bigger stroke than normal. And that's just to add some shadow. And we're going to imagine that she's got a shirt right here, even though we don't see one. For all I know, she's topless. But we're going to put this on her because we're nice. And my fingers were a little wobbly. Let's try that again. I'm lifting my wrist off of the tablet so it's not scraping on it, but it's kind of above it a little bit. So I'm kind of filling this in so it's got a nice varied line width. I'm sort of having a sort of an upstroke to the bottom of this hair, and then I go over the hair again and again, but slightly coming off of the line every single time so that it's softened, like a little soft shadow, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. Now, even though the translator starts to show up right in here, I'm still coloring her in because we can always put a highlight in her hair that will have her coming in sort of a coming off of the person that's behind her. So we're gonna allow her to sort of overlay over the translator, and that's gonna be okay. It will look really cool when it's done. So here I'm kind of make-believing that her hair comes out this far. I'm kind of giving it an upstroke. And notice how I just did like a little soft curl here and come and do another one here and here. These create sort of like a gathering of hair. So it's not one stroke of hair at a time. It's like a group of hair, right? So here's a group, here's a group. We couldn't really do that with the gentleman, but we're dealing with a female here, and when you're dealing with long hair, especially the kind of waves and curls that we have here, you can kind of get these soft gatherings of it. It almost looks like combed through hair, you know what I mean? So this is just a little bit of black color. It's just a little bit of black paint. And we're kind of using her hair as a guide, but we're not completely using it because her hair stops here. So we kind of just have to guess where we imagine her hair might be. I'm doing very soft, slow strokes, up strokes, going up high. Continuing. I'm darkening the bottom, going lighter as we go at the top. And I'm starting soft and getting harder. I don't start hard. I like to start soft. With these hair strokes, you know, it's pretty important to have a nice progression from, you know, this sort of soft airbrushed edge to going with pretty hard and solid, fully like solid color. So I'm kind of putting a stroke inside of a stroke that's curved, like a curved stroke. So that was a straight line. I didn't intend that. That was my computer. I'm going to come up and add some lineage in here. See, these are just kind of like curved, smooth lines that I'm making. This is kind of like a nice technique to practice, just going from down to up to down to up. And then you can kind of fill in areas. This also, one thing that kind of helps with learning how to do this kind of stroke that I've done here, a way to think about it is like looking at a barbershop pole. You know, if you look at a barbershop pole, it kind of spirals around a pole, these red stripes. So I just imagine that like there's a pole here and these stripes are going around it and then they just stop before they go all the way around. You know, so it's like one way of kind of looking at it. So if you ever look at a barbershop pole, look at the way that it swerves and see if you can try to get your hand to do what the pole is doing, or what the stripes are doing on the pole. So now I'm kind of changing the curve. I'm going backwards instead of forwards, going up and over instead of down and up. And this is because I want to show that this hair is a different curl. It's a different grouping of hair. So we do want some to look a little different. If they're all looking the same, then it's kind of simple. But if we can vary the hair, and to make the hair singled out a little, you can just add a little bit of black paint and softly using this faded edge. I wouldn't be able to do this technique if this wasn't checked. If this was off like that, here's how it would look. But see, that just doesn't work. But if you turn it on, you can get really soft lines. I'm going to do that one a little softer. You get these soft lines with soft edges. I could literally spend 10 hours just on one person's hair, so I can do a better job than this. I just, you know, I'm going to try to get this whole cartoon done in 10 hours. So I'm just going to kind of go slow. Not too slow. But fast, but not too fast. I was just using the M tool smudge to kind of just blend it just a little bit. And press B again. I'm just gonna continue the curve of these little hairs. I don't like that. I'm gonna come to this one again. Like that. Alright, that's looking good. Alright, I'm gonna zoom out just to take a look. Looking good. Alright, so we're just gonna continue. I'm trying to keep her hair sort of going in the same direction and still touching here. So I'm connecting these hairs right here on this outer edge. You see how it almost looks like it's one line right here? We're going to make it one line purposely. So we're going over just that part. And now they connect. And now we've created a cohesive shadow, even though we have all these separate hairs. Now her hair is one, you know, and yet we can still see all these intricate hairs. I don't like that one. Let's see if we can soften it as we go. So I'm actually moving my wrist in a different angle than I did here. So this was one way and then these are another way. So what I did was sort of create hair dimension. I have sort of this group in the back that's folded this way, and then I gave her volume by lifting the arc that was going that way, and I've lifted over it. And that creates, you know, dimension. There's other ways to do it. This is one way. Maybe in another video I'll show you some other ways. It's okay that these lines are coming off of, like it's kind of crossing over into this border. I'll be deleting that later. Once I finished her, I'll come into this area and remove anything that crosses over into the border. Oops, see, I don't like that one. So I'm going to come back and press Control Z to undo anything I might change my mind about. Alright, so before I do that area, I'm going to come down here and do the curve that's noticeable, and then we'll go in and we'll connect some of them. And the reason I'm doing this is because the curl is what I want people to sort of be drawn to first. And then as people look for detail in an image, you know, they'll see sort of background lines and they'll see the details, but I want the emphasis to be on these curls. This will look better when it's colored. I don't like that. Let's try a little differently. I think in this case it's probably better come off of the line so it connects and intersects like a Y. Like that. Okay, so I'm just going back and I'm deleting and I'm painting and deleting and painting and deleting until I get sort of the curve that looks the best. So if I do a curve, I'm not crazy about it, I can just go back. And when you're dealing with hair, some of the lines can come right off of the others and it just looks like there's more hair there like that. I don't even have to delete that. I can just leave that if I wanted to. And it would just like look like more hair is there, you know what I mean? So I might just leave it and not erase it. But if I'm gonna do that, then I may as well do a few more so it looks intentional, you know, so we'll do some like that. This side's kind of wild and this side isn't, so we're gonna add just a little bit of wild hairs over here. We're just starting from the outside and moving towards the scalp, sort of, but in a curved, like, sweeping motion. We'll have a few hairs coming off like this. This gives the quick impression that lots of little hairs were drawn, even though it's just a few. Just a few little details.